This is the Running Channel podcast with me, Andy Baddeley, my co-host, Sarah Hartley. She actually writes the scripts that I've got in front of me right here and can't spell her own name. So just like the auto cue in Anchorman, I will read what is in front of me.
Brilliant.
And over there in the corner, Rick Kelsey pressing buttons.
Heart by name, heart by nature.
Hey, thanks, Rick. Look, I spelled both of your names right. It's just myself that I've let down.
Yes, you've let everybody down, but you're fresh off the back of an incredible marathon experience. But also today's episode, we're going to be talking about motivation, some keys to staying motivated, certainly as it's going to start to get darker, the days will get shorter in the UK at least, so that can be quite a difficult time to stay motivated for running. So we're going to try and help everyone out a little bit.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Right, so I think we should start with you, Sarah. You're fresh off the back, landed yesterday from Chicago.
Yes. Oh my goodness. What an absolutely incredible experience. Chicago crowds do not disappoint.
Really?
So good. I think what's incredible is we did a boat tour the day after the marathon, which I highly recommend if your legs won't get going. And we did a architectural boat tour around Chicago, and it actually really helped digest the marathon, because it can be quite hard to remember all the different moments. But Chicago has loads of different districts and lots of different, you run through Chinatown, we ran through some other incredible streets. We ran past a kind of pride parade as well, which was amazing. And so going through all of those different districts on the boat tour, it was I remember that bit. And then you come through this bit.
It's pretty cool to immediately relive it, because I guess it's hard to take it all in. Was it windy?
Not really during the marathon, but as you're walking around, I tell you what, we decided to walk back after the marathon. So Tom had done his first ever marathon. He did so well. And afterwards I was like, right, do you want to get a taxi? Do you want to get on the tube? It's 10 minutes. And he was like, no, let's walk back. And it's 25 minutes. And I was like,
brave.
Okay.
That's really brave.
But I tell you what is absolutely amazing. You know those foil blankets that you get at the end?
Oh yeah. Was it cold?
It was really cold walking back, and it was really windy, but those foil blankets
They do the job.
Everything out. Yeah, I kind of tied it so it made it into a little tunnel around me, and it was so warm.
I saw a picture of you in the foil blanket, and I was wondering why you were in it. I mean, how cold are we talking? How was it?
I mean, it was about highs of 13, 14 degrees, which is obviously quite different to what we're experiencing in the UK at the moment. So actually,
perfect though.
Yeah, okay. Perfect conditions for running. But then as soon as you finished, I never drop a bag. I'm never that organised enough to think about what I want at the end. So I just took the foil blanket, and actually it was really warm.
I know that there's a little bit of an element of stuff that from the Chicago Marathon that's going to lead us nicely to talk about kind of today's topic, which is motivation. But first I want to find out what Rick has been up to quickly.
Well, very briefly, I had a little health check,
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
And
You're right.
I'm fine. And for
I wasn't concerned.
Yeah, I know you weren't. I can tell on your face.
I was.
I found out how tall I am for the first time.
Oh, for the first time ever.
Yeah. Wait, so hang on. Let's start off with how tall were you telling people you were?
How tall do you think you were?
Okay, my whole life, and you know this, I've always said, how tall are you, Rick? 6 foot. Bang on. 6 foot.
Yeah. How tall are you actually then? Have you shrunk?
Yeah, I am 182.7 centimetres.
Well, that sounds like 6 foot on the nose, isn't it? What's 6 foot? What is 6 foot? Go on.
182.8.
So you're 0.1 off.
So 1 millimetre.
I just had a moment. I was like, I've just lied to people my entire life.
I tell you what, though, when you put on the cushioned shoes that you got on right now,
on these bad boys,
that's making you 6 foot, mate.
Now
if not a little bit more.
These,
yeah. There you go. Just never take them off, and you're fine.
There's no way that maybe we'll get healthcare professionals writing in, but there's no way that those things are accurate within a millimetre.
But I was standing to attention.
But it's like a tape measure.
Yeah.
How is that not accurate?
No, you have to stand underneath a machine. And they do your BMI.
Does it squash your hair down and all that?
Yeah,
or including your hair?
So with my hair, I'm definitely over 6 foot.
What's wrong with a tape measure? Why are we turning to...
Yeah. Hey. Well, what's wrong with being 5'11" and,
0.99999%?
Nothing, mate.
No,
nothing.
Apart from that, fine. Got my cholesterol done.
Yeah.
All good. Yeah, under 5, success.
I have no idea what that means, but it sounds good to me.
Keep your cholesterol under 5.
Sounds like you're winning.
Here's a little fact I found out this week. So my BMI, everyone rubbishes it. Mine says I'm a bit of a chunky chip. But apparently with runners, your BMI can be quite a little bit higher than normal people because your muscle, you have more muscle than fat,
So your
BMI
mass
can't
proportionally
identify.
is slightly higher.
Your
and BMI
mass,
can't.
yeah. So mine's 28.
So what you're
Sorry, I said
saying
BMA, I
is
meant
you're,
What I'm
BMI.
saying
you're
is
such a gym
have
lad,
another pie.
or go and do another squat.
We'll go and do another squat. No, essentially, yeah. We are as runners built a bit firmer potentially. So
I like to think that, but
your BMI could potentially, if it's over, it might not be a problem.
yeah, I mean, generally, I think anyone that's directed towards BMI as a genuine health measure, I think in the modern world, there's much better ways of working out whether you're happy and healthy. So
Yeah.
there
Like
we go.
height.
Like heights. Yeah. So Lenny, let's stick with 6 foot. Andy, your week. How tall are you?
How tall am I? I am over 188 centimeters, somewhere around that.
Flex.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know whether that's helping me in marathon training. A lot of the best marathon runners are quite small, aren't they?
Yeah. Do you think you've shrunk since you stopped running 5 years ago?
So I think you'd grow, wouldn't you? If I was running nearly 100 miles a week, that would have been compressing everything. So maybe I've
you've
grown.
got taller.
Oh, I'm going to claim
That's
it.
great.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But marathon training is in full swing. I've had probably the toughest week yet. More from the interval sessions. It was a tempo run that I did that I think is just showing me how hard it's going to be. It ended up being a total of about a half marathon distance for this tempo run, including the warm up and the warm down. Or warm up and cool down, depending on how you want to describe those. And just that was really tough. Like it mentally was tough. I did it on my own. And it was that realization of, oh God, that was hard. And then my average pace overall is probably about what I want to try and run for the marathon. And
It's
I
all right.
did
You
half
only
the
got to
distance.
do double.
Yeah. But I've been really pleased with the progress, and I've seeing genuine progress every week in terms of whether that's heart rate or pace or distance that I'm able to cover. And that has been motivating. So that kind of measuring my own progress, not against anyone else and not against how I was years ago, just against the previous day and the previous week and the previous month, that has really motivated me to get out.
I think that sometimes is the best thing about marathon training is slowly, it takes so long to train for a marathon that actually slowly over time you just realise you're getting one step closer and piecing the bits of the puzzle together to actually get to that start line and feel like, yes, I'm ready, I can do this.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just trying not to think too far ahead. I've got loads of people asking me questions. What are you doing about this? Are you going to do this? And I was like, I don't know.
What are you doing about that?
This and that. I'm just going to deal with it as it comes. But yeah, I have 30K coming up this Sunday, which I'm really nervous about.
Sarah, do you think Andy is more nervous about this than anything else he's ever done
I
since he's
think so,
retired?
yeah. But I think it's really nice to see how excited and invested you are in it. I feel like we spent the first half of this year being like, you ready? And you just try it in complete denial. But now you're into the thick of marathon training.
Yeah, it's so
all
close.
you can talk about. And to be honest, it's getting a bit boring, but
Yeah.
only a
I've
few
had
months
enough
left
of
for it.
Valencia. We shouldn't have set him up for it in the first place. I'm looking forward to going there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be good.
I am now, it's 7 weeks out, 6 or 7 weeks to go. It feels very real.
Yeah.
And actually, this is, I suppose, my take on today's topic about motivation, which is that I was struggling with motivation in the past couple of years because I just wanted to stay fit, and that was my only purpose. So therefore, I could just choose not to run if I didn't want to. Whereas now I know I'm not going to get round and feel like I've done myself justice unless I put the training in. And so having set a kind of finite time frame on something and a goal where I am now, up for it, and I want to see what I can do. All of a sudden, fitting stuff into my routine and building new habits and all of these things has come so much easier than I expected because I want to see what I can do.
Yeah.
And I don't want to embarrass myself.
Well, linked to that, I have a similar motivation thing that came up over the weekend whilst I was out in Chicago that I thought was interesting. Warning, bit of a rant coming up.
Oh, hello.
Hopefully I'm speaking to a vocal minority, but in case I'm speaking to a silent majority here, I want to address why people run marathons, because I had some interesting comments on social media after saying that I'd run Chicago with Tom, who was doing his first marathon.
And that wasn't a Strava title diss, was it? It wasn't like my marathon with Tom.
No. It genuinely was morning run for quite a long time, and then
brilliant.
it was Chicago Marathon.
Yeah.
But I had some people commenting saying, oh, what a waste that you ran it easy and you didn't race it. I had other people saying, how can you pace something when that was the time that you ended up running? I'm not giving it away because the video isn't out yet. But I want to address...
So essentially the implication here is that there's this, from those comments, is that people didn't think it was, inverted commas, kind of worth it if you were running a certain pace.
Yeah, a certain pace.
Or a pace that's slower than your
if you're
best.
not going for a personal best. What I want to address is that there are so many different reasons why people run marathons.
Yeah.
If you're running it because you want to run a personal best, great. If you're running it because you want to run for charity, amazing. If you're running it because you want to prove to yourself that you can get round, or if you're running it because you and a friend love running marathons and you're doing that together, and regardless of what pace you're running, you're going to finish and have a good time, all of those things are valid and okay. And so that's the first thing that I was a bit shocked by, because I genuinely enjoyed Chicago probably more than some of the marathons that I've run in the past, where I've been clock watching, I've had a pace in mind, I knew I had to get to the finish line.
You could actually, and this is what a lot of people will do, that go to a big city marathon or a smaller marathon because they just want to soak up that support on the course, see the city, like...
Especially
I don't think there's any wrong or right reason for
no.
Look, if you're out there getting it done, like we're all about like people lacing up and getting out, and that's the biggest barrier for me most days, is just lacing up and getting out the door. So,
whatever reason you are trying to run is totally valid. So that was the first one, especially as well, like with a marathon major like Chicago, some people save up for years for this experience and it costs thousands of pounds or dollars or whatever currency you're working in.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to go around and you actually want to remember it. I remember so much more of Chicago than I do of a race where everything's a blur because I'm so in a time zone. But equally, if you are running for paces, that's totally fine as well. But
that's because it lasted an extra third compared to your normal pace.
yeah, but I mean, I'm getting more for my money.
Yeah, exactly.
than everyone else.
Worth.
But then that's the other thing as well. Like, it doesn't matter what the clock says at all. Like, if anything,
finish lines, not finish times.
No.
Exactly.
I couldn't even tell you my London finishing time.
No, it doesn't matter.
I can't even remember them.
I think it's a shame. Like, if you meet someone who's recently run a marathon, please try and not let your first question be, what time did you run?
No.
Because for some people that's really important.
Yeah.
For other people, it's not about that at all. And if they are disappointed in their time, that shouldn't be the first thing that they have to admit to you. And the other thing as well that I wanted to address is that, you know, the people at the front of the pack, the Kiptons, Hassans, who are breaking records, winning, that's brave. To go out and try and win a race is incredibly brave. But actually, going right to the back of the pack and starting a race like Chicago, which has a strict cut-off time of 6.5 hours, that, if anything, I would like to say...
6.5 hours cut-off time. Yeah,
starting that, knowing that you might not finish, it's going to be a struggle against the clock, and you might have to drop out or get timed out, I would argue that that's braver, because that is such an incredible feat.
You're right. Do not ask them that as the first question. Do it as the second question. Judge them then.
Ask about the crowds.
I think
first.
read the room, right? You see what people's motivation are. Like, I couldn't feel more strongly about what we're about, the running channel, and the reason we do the podcast. Anyone listening, I'm going to be chasing a time in Valencia.
But I mean, ultimately,
but that's very personal to me.
Yeah.
And you spent a career racing. So like, if you were just, when you first said like, oh, I want to run a marathon and I want it to be trail and I don't want to think about times, I was like, is that really you, Andy? Is that going to motivate you through 16 weeks?
So I think that is what's going to motivate me in this instance. But it's not what's motivating me on the training runs and stuff. I'm just enjoying that sense of achievement of kind of completing stuff. And we're just like, I'm in awe of everyone who's out there running. And so anyone that's listening to this, I'm hoping whatever run you're doing, whatever distance that is, I hope you're enjoying it, and that it's exciting for you in the way that running at the moment is really exciting for me in a way that I've not experienced in 10 years or so. So, let's talk about actually motivation. So I'm motivated right now by getting the training in to try and finish this marathon. And as part of that, I'm starting to see what I'm capable of. And then the time element is starting to motivate me as well. But there's something more general I thought was interesting to talk about today, which is something called, and I'm not a behavioral psychologist, I'm not an expert on this, but I just think it's interesting because I can see it in my own day-to-day motivation. And that's habit stacking. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yeah.
Habit stacking?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before.
Oh, Rick, this might change your life.
Okay.
So
I'm all ears.
Well, I mean, it's not like, you know, it's not rocket science, I suppose, but once you know about it, I think you can tap into it to help you to make small habitual changes, which will allow you to improve your running or just improve day-to-day life. So it's essentially a way of associating a new behavior that you want to develop. So that might be that you want to go out running more regularly. So that would have been me pre-marathon training, because I was like, I do want to run more regularly, but I had nothing that was forcing me to, or not forcing me. I just didn't want to get out the door every day or
So
regularly.
that's one thing.
Well, you choose that new behavior that you want to do.
Yeah.
And then you stack it on top of an existing trigger or habit that you already have. So to take it back to basics, I suppose, every morning you get up and then you brush your teeth. But you might decide that a new habit that you want to do is to do 5 minutes of yoga or stretching or proprioception, balancing on one leg, that sort of thing.
Unless you're on your way to the World Athletics Championships and you have to sleep in a lobby floor.
Okay,
you don't brush
that's
your
a
teeth
disruption to your normal routine. Yeah, so we did experience that. But yeah, you know you're going to brush your teeth. That's a habit that you've already developed and that you do without even thinking about it. So then you start to associate the new thing with that existing habit.
Oh, I see.
So you're like, as soon as I finish brushing my teeth, I'm going to do X. And then you try to do that regularly. And that's called habit stacking because you're stacking the one you want to do on top of something that you already do. So for me now, it's like I would pack my work bag before I go to bed because I'm dealing with kids the next morning and I don't want to have to do that. So that's a habit that already exists. I have to do it. I do it already. So now as part of that, I'm also now packing my running kit and choosing the shoes that I'm going to wear for the particular run that I have the next day. And in doing so, there's no excuses for me not to do it the next day. Or I'm coming in from work and...
So it comes naturally then?
Yeah, so it starts to come naturally. You still have to kind of force it initially, but by tagging stuff onto habits that exist already, then you've got the chance to like make it stick, basically.
But is it just one thing? So that's the running. Is there other part? Is there another part to the habit stacking?
Well, you can use it for anything. So if you wanted to learn a language, you could use it for that. So you could take something that you normally do, like you take your phone with you on the train, and then you have a habit of the way that you behave at that point of the time every day. And
this is really interesting.
So I'm going to add this. I'm going to pin it to it, basically.
Another good one with this as well that I do is that there are certain podcasts that I only listen to out on a run. So then that motivates me because a habit is this podcast comes out on a Friday every single week. And then when I'm struggling to get out for a run at the weekend or the following week, I'm like, oh no, I want to listen to that podcast. So I instantly am motivated to go out for my run because I want to listen to that.
That's a reward though, isn't it?
See, it's like I teed you up and I genuinely hadn't.
No.
So I've got a list here of the psychology behind habit formation. And basically it starts with the cue or the trigger to initiate the habit loop. So that could be an event, an emotion, a time of day, or an action that prompts your brain to start that habit. And the way habit stacking works is you're trying to pin that onto something you already do. So brushing your teeth or packing your bag or whatever it might be. You then tag on this extra like trigger to like, oh yeah, that means I've got to do this. Then there's the routine or the behavior. So like that's the action that follows that cue. So that's actually doing the thing. Then there's reward. And that could be like a dopamine hit. And that's why social media and phones and stuff become so addictive. It's because the habit that you established by mistake, taking your phone to the toilet or whatever it might be, rewards you with a dopamine hit. And because you have that reward, you're into this cycle of like developing the habit.
And suddenly you're looking at a puppy surrounded by ducks like I was this morning.
What, on the toilet?
No, in the car.
Okay. Whilst driving?
No, in the passenger seat.
Being driven. And then it comes onto this like reinforcement, doing it again and again, and then it becomes a habit. And because it's going to get dark soon and we're going to have like, it's only light in the UK from 8:30 in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, so it's built-in motivation.
So hang on then. If I understand this correctly, have I got a double habit stack and reward by if I get my kit out the night before and put it on the radiator, I've won stacked, and then 2, I've got the lovely reward of a nice warm top to put on in the morning when it's cold.
Yeah. And then you get the reward of the actual run, of feeling that sense of accomplishment. That the more barriers you put in the way, like your kit's not ready, you haven't planned the route you're going to take, you don't have a podcast to look forward to, because I do that as well. I save my favourite podcasts. It'd be weird if it was the Running Channel podcast, but I'm hoping someone listening is listening to the Running Channel podcast on their runs. We get lots of lovely messages about that. Actually, email into podcast@therunningchannel.com to tell us how you listen to the podcast. I'd love to know where and when. Is it your commute? Are you saving it for runs?
There's also some people who will listen to it and then will watch it as well. So thank you if you're a double
and then get confused why we don't release every single one on video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Every other one.
Maybe this is a good segue because this is a video and audio episode, so you can choose if you wanted to see this as well. But something that I think is motivating is being part of something more than just yourself. So that I'd hope that that's the Running Channel community and what we're kind of doing for people out there. But also there are amazing running communities around the UK and around the world. And I actually had a chance to speak to 2 different running communities that are supported by New Balance in the UK. that's We Run Edinburgh, up in Edinburgh, obviously, and then Snappy Runners from Manchester, to find out, I suppose, what their motivation is, like what they get out of their running communities. So I had a chance to speak to them, so maybe we should hear from them now.
Yeah, let's give it a listen.
We Run Edinburgh is a women's running community. We run together to encourage each other, for friendship, and for the accountability to keep ourselves going.
What would you say the biggest thing that you've taken personally from your experience with We Run Edinburgh, the thing that's almost most important to you?
We Run Edinburgh is really important to me because I can see how people come to the group and how they change over time. They might start really quiet, even though we say, like, make sure you talk to someone, don't let anyone run on their own. There's always someone that just wants to run on their own in silence. And I think seeing that over time, them become more involved with the group, it's really nice to see that, like, they want to help out being a front or a back runner, or they want to get involved in plotting out routes or something like that for our runs. Seeing people become a bigger part of the community is a really important part of We Run Edinburgh, for sure.
We end up feeling that enthusiasm through the kind of, I suppose, the comment and the interaction that we get.
Yeah.
And also we do in-person run clubs as well, and that's when it becomes tangible. But you're seeing that every week and seeing people kind of come out of their shells, I suppose.
Seeing people become a bigger part of the community is a really important part of We Run Edinburgh, for sure. Just see people who've turned up really nervous, and even some of the messages I get each week before the run, like, what pace do you run? Will I be fast enough? Do I need to be able to run a particular distance? And then when they turn up and enjoy it, and then afterwards saying, oh, that was so much better than I thought. I was really nervous before I came along. And I really love that. Like, we're always trying to reassure people that it's a social run. We're here to chat. Like, the run part is secondary to all that. It's community first, then run. And I think that's really important.
That's an amazing place to finish. Thank you so much, Lynette. And I'm really excited to meet you all and hopefully see a whole bunch of you out in Valencia. So thank you. Okay, now I'm joined by Harley and Charlie from Snappy Runners in Manchester. So thanks very much for talking to me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Andy.
I would love to dive straight in and find out a little bit more about what you do, how you describe yourselves, I suppose, like the reason for being, like how did it all come about?
So it came about last January. Me and Harley ran quite frequently, like coming out of like a post-pandemic, and we noticed a lot of people like central Manchester that we'd pass running on their own. So we kind of felt there was a space to create this kind of community-led, safe zone, like no pressure of people just coming together through running, really. So first run was 14th of January last year, in which we had about 22 people come to. And then from there, it's just snowballed. Like, we get new faces every week, and we probably average at about, our Saturday social run now is like 90 people on a Saturday morning.
That's amazing, yeah. And were they people who didn't know each other before, Snappy Runners? They've all just come together through running?
We've had a few success stories. I'm a success story in that respect. I live with someone who I met at the club and didn't know 18 months ago. We're still waiting on the first Snappy's baby.
Yeah, and we're going to come up and see some of you guys at one of your running events, and then we'll also see you out in Valencia, which is really exciting. I guess if you were to try and sum up what it is that you stand for and what you're trying to do at Snappy Runners, what would you say?
Probably quite a lot of run like communities and clubs that we're aware of in the country that are not in like an athletics landscape. As I say, like all our runs are social runs. We run on a Thursday at 7 p.m. we do a 10k, and then we run on a Saturday morning, which is a social 5k. I think what's quite nice is we've kind of created that space where people can come together in the running community, and then we've got people that sort of branch off and go and do their runs at different tempos and paces if they want to take it more seriously. But I think for what we stand for is social, it's community, it's friendship and new experiences, really. I think what we're really trying to push next year is more social events like away from running. So whether that's like meals, drinks, excursions, stuff that, you know, we can branch off and do more. So we don't want to just be known as solely focused on running and so like emphasis on pace and times, etc. It's all about like the social space. I'm a bit older than Harley. I turned 33 this year, and I think when you go into your 30s, you kind of have this mentality that you know all the hobbies you like, you've made all the friends you're going to make. And for me, in the last 18 months, like my mind has just been open, you know, on such a wider landscape of meeting new people, even taking up running much more. So for me, like the club has given me so much personally.
New Balance has, I think, given us and the club the opportunity to give those experiences to people. We did the London Marathon with them in April, and it was probably one of the best weekends of my life. The amount of people like spending the weekend with all my best friends, watching them do themselves proud, watching me do myself proud after however long, 6 months of being committed to something, and then seeing that kind of be realised. It was really special, and it was really like special shared thing, and those kind of bonds and those kind of things I don't think you could maybe create outside of running, or we wouldn't have been able to do it without New Balance either. Being a runner is getting yourself out there. Maybe you run 500 metres, walk 200 metres, run 500 metres again on your couch to 5k. If you are training for an ultramarathon, we've got a whole host of people like that come to Snappy's, and it's nice that they can all kind of down tools, and it means the one thing they do have in common is that they want to spend time with each other, and they look forward to that Saturday morning, Thursday evening run.
Wow, that was really nice to hear from them. The thing I would take away from the lads in Manchester is, I mean, free flat, mate.
That's what you took from it.
It's so interesting seeing how, like, there are so many different running clubs out there as well. Like, I love the difference of one thing that I think is so cool from Lynette in Edinburgh is that was genuinely my biggest fear when I joined a running club at first, was like pace. And it's so nice that it's so inclusive and you're not going to get left behind. But then speaking of motivation, the guys in Manchester, so cool to have a club where you're turning up to be with your friends, be around with other people. Like, that's so nice.
Meeting new friends in a new city when people have moved from all over the country. You know, he was talking about post-pandemic there.
Yeah.
It's like, don't know a lot of people in Manchester. They've moved from different parts of the country. How can we meet? All right. Yeah. This is actually a building block for the rest of your life, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're not going to, like on a Thursday, if you're going for their, I think they said it was 10k on a Thursday, you're not going to miss that because you don't want to run. You're going to go because you want to go see your friends.
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh, well, I'm going to have to run anyway.
Yeah, running clubs are amazing, actually.
Yeah,
and if it, like, I've made so many of my closest friends through running and met you guys.
Rude.
I've known you for 20
Andy.
years, you muppet.
I'm so glad I haven't known you for 20 years.
I'm joking. I love you both. Running brings people together. And what was amazing actually that came through from both of those groups is that it didn't, you could be a really experienced runner who runs really fast.
Yeah.
And you could also be someone who's just started out and is experiencing it through couch to 5k. But there's a place for both of those people in one space. And then outside of the running club, you can do all of the kind of extra stuff that, you know, there might be someone running 6 or 7 times a week versus someone else who only runs at Snappy Runners.
Yeah.
Because the fact that there's a space for both.
And I know as well, like if you are on a training plan, training for something, a lot of people say that actually the runs they struggle the most with are the easy paced runs or like the runs where there's no intervals or tempo, paces. Yeah. So that's what in Manchester,
motivation.
Great, you've got friends to talk to and that'll breeze you through whatever run you need to do that week.
Yeah, and I think that would be my main summary was that's an amazing way of staying motivated as it gets and staying safe. Like, I know we live in a world where you shouldn't have to do this, but, you know, people feel safer going out when it's dark if they are together with other people. And that's part of the kind of reason for being of the We Run Edinburgh group is feeling safe in numbers. And yeah, as it gets dark, it's hard to get out the door. But if you're meeting someone, and particularly if those people become your friends or already your friends, that's probably the most powerful motivation that there is.
Yeah, completely.
Quick bit of news. We couldn't go a whole episode without mentioning there's a new world record.
Yeah, new men's world record. Having the women's record was smashed a few weeks ago. It's just they're falling like dominoes. It's incredible.
It's
I thought you were going
so
to talk about the parkrun one.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! There are so many records.
Yeah.
So many people are running phenomenally fast. So, Sifan Hassan, who ran and won London Marathon back in April, ran 2:13:44. Incredible. So she is getting closer and closer to the women's world record.
Yeah. So this is in Chicago at the weekend. Yeah. So she didn't break the world record, but she's ran the second fastest time in history.
The fact that as well that was her second ever marathon.
Yes.
First US marathon, and she won it. Incredible. And then Kipton broke the men's world record and ran 2 hours and 35 seconds.
That doesn't sound like a real time, does it? And If you're not aware, the way that he ran it is even more staggering.
Yeah.
So he already held the time for the fastest second half in marathon history from his debut in Valencia last year, when he ran 2:01:53, I think. And he closed in 60:15 or something for his second half, it makes you feel a little bit sick. And then this year he ran 59:47, I think, around about there, give or take a second for his second half. So sub 6, it's ridiculous saying it out loud. A sub 60-minute second half to break the world record. So
and
he
now
definitely thinks he
He
can go
says he's
sub
going
2.
for it.
There is 35 seconds between history being made and the first ever men's sub 2 hour marathon within a record. If you don't know, the one that Kipchoge ran sadly doesn't count because of all of the...
He had a phalanx of pacemakers and crew and the course itself, and it wasn't a competitive marathon, so it was just him. So all of that means it doesn't
It's going to happen.
count as
It's
an
going to
official.
happen.
It's going to happen. Where's it going to happen, Rick?
I think it's going to happen in Chicago next year.
Do you think? No, I think Berlin.
Yeah, I think
Berlin
Berlin.
2024.
But then Berlin's it depends on what he wants to do with the Olympics. And
And
Paris.
the
Like,
and
there's
the
a lot of
Olympics
stuff
is
that's
quite
gonna
close.
change it, yeah. And the thing, he's very young, he's only 23. But the thing with running and marathon running is you can have, like, I suppose, a purple patch. And so
What does that
how
mean?
much does he, as in just, you have
Is
this
this
small
his
amount of
purple
time that you're
patch, yeah.
amazing.
Oh, right.
And so that's that one makes
Are you still waiting for that?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. But that's what makes Kipchoge the greatest of all time, because he's done it over 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
But for a lot of athletes, they burst through onto the scene. They might have 1 or 2 amazing years, and then it's quite hard to maintain it. So it's whether or not he tries to capitalize on in the next 6 to 12 months, or whether he focuses on the Olympics. We just don't know. So I guess watch this space.
Yeah, either way, we're proud. Don't worry, Kipton. The expectations are high, but if you don't do it, it's fine.
Yes, we're okay with it.
We're all right.
Yeah, and
But
well done.
it would be exciting if you did.
And well done to the kid who nailed the park run score as well.
yeah.
Good job.
So this is a 9-year-old who ran 17:40 something for 5K.
Does that make you feel sick, Andy?
It's,
What were you running age 9?
Oh, I mean, I was barely running competitively. I think I
run-
started
He was running
just
to the
running
bus
away
stop.
from me.
just running across the playground, like 50-meter sprints. That was all I was doing.
Nice.
So now it's time for the best bit, I think. So that's your questions. And if you have got any for future episodes, email us in to podcast@therunningchannel.com. We would love to try to help you out. Rick?
You know what people are very good at nowadays? Telling us where they're from.
Oh, well
Look
done,
how happy he is.
everyone. You're making Rick very
Honestly,
happy.
yeah, you should see his face. And we get lots of lovely messages.
Yeah, I
that-
should have. Yeah, you're right. Should have put some powder on. I'm smiling that much.
Yeah. Oh, also as well, we get lots of questions. We also just get lots of lovely messages, and Andy keeps sharing them in our little podcast group chat. And me and Rick just, ignore him but heart react.
Classic. That's so true. But they are amazing. So thank you very much.
Jeremy from Winchester. I'm interested to know if one can benefit from adding running backwards into training. Thanks for a great podcast and everything else you offer about running.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Isn't that intriguing? Do you
Did
know
you
what?
do
There's a guy,
backwards running,
No,
Rick?
there's a guy in
did
our
a video on it,
council
didn't
who works on noise complaints, who's one of the world record holders for running backwards. And he
Really?
contacted me because he's like, I see you on the channel and I know
Yeah.
you live in our area. And he's like, have you ever done anything on running backwards? And I said, we have made one video on a track. Where was it?
I think it was during the pandemic. We were all
During the
filming remotely,
pandemic.
so we could go and do it wherever we
Oh yes, we
wherever
went.
were.
We tried it, and it's so tough.
Was it hard?
I thought it was tough, but I tell you what, it was fun. And I think if you get really good at running backwards, as in not to elite level competition kind of level, but you can get to a point where you don't actually need to really look where you're going because
Yeah,
you're
that's
on a
what-
track. You just
That
confident.
sounds terrifying. Yeah, I suppose if you're on the track and you know that it's a clear space. So yeah, there's a safety element, but I don't know whether I could ever be fully on board with actually going for a normal run and doing it backwards.
Yeah.
But I have read various things and spoken to physios at various points in the last couple of years where there's been a discussion about, for example, walking backwards on a treadmill as a safer way of doing it, because it does recruit muscles in a totally different way. And the difference between that eccentric contraction of muscles and so on. Like I've heard positive things that it can have an impact on strength and conditioning for knees and hips in particular, because of the way that you use your quads and hamstrings in a different way to normal by walking backwards.
Well, it's definitely, lots of people employ going backwards after a marathon, backwards downstairs, hurts less. And also on a hill, if you're in like a really long race or a hilly race, going down backwards feels much better. And you can actually, if you're on like an elliptical, you can go backwards and forwards.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
So maybe that's it. Rather than going to your local track and running around backwards, maybe if you want to give it a go,
try walking on a treadmill first, and then let us know your experiences on podcast@therunningchannel.com as to how.
Please film it.
Yes, as to how many strange looks you got in the gym as well.
The local gym group chat is going to be like, someone doesn't.
Yeah, and start slow. Please be sensible.
Yeah.
And the opposite of eccentric is
concentric.
Glad you knew it.
Okay, sorry, was that you testing me?
Yeah. I was so about to say eccentric.
Oh, brilliant.
Peter from Sydney. Hi, Peter.
Hello, Peter.
That was good. I'm about to run my first marathon, and I'm hoping to listen to your answer during the Sydney Marathon this Sunday. I'm really enjoying your marathon plan, and it's made me pretty confident for a good race this weekend. I've also started to eye future events, one of which is a trail marathon. How different would you train for a trail marathon? I'm also glad I get to complete a marathon before Andy.
Amazing. Oh well, good luck, Peter. So if you are listening, I hope you smash it and enjoy it and it goes well. Clearly, given my vast marathon experience, I'm the best place to answer this. But I'm going to chip in first, despite the fact that I'm not the best place, to say that interestingly, I would have spent as much time as possible previously in my career trying to run off-road as much as possible on nice trails and stuff that they weren't too rough and risky from that perspective. But from an impact perspective, that's what I would have done. Whereas this year, training for the marathon, I've been quite conscious of deliberately running on the road. I think the new shoes and new foams and stuff do make a difference. They protect you more. But you do need to be conditioned to the surface that you're going to run on. And so I would say that that's the approach there, is that like most people do most of their running on pavements and roads and stuff. And if you're going to run a trail marathon, you can still do some of it like that. But I think you need to get off road because you'll be slower. It's harder. The ground reaction time is longer.
Shoes?
Yeah, it depends on how aggressive the trails are, how technical they are, as to whether you need to have different shoes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think the biggest things you need to factor in is terrain and elevation are going to be the biggest factors. Depending how close it is to Sydney Marathon, you've already got a really good block of training under your belt. So your aerobic fitness to be able to complete that is going to be there. But then what you need to work on is hills in a marathon are going to feel so hard. So like doing some of your longer runs on a hilly off-road course on some trails near you will massively benefit you. And also check the elevation of the course as well. Like see if you can find, I don't know, a long run that would slightly mimic that, so you can get used to what it feels like to run 10K and then have to deal with some brutal hills. Yeah,
and to keep running, I'd say like the key to hills is, it depends on how extreme this trail marathon is. But let's say it's undulating rather than like mountainous. Yeah. Then being able to run up hills and then kind of run off the hill is always the key to, like when we were doing cross country as a kid, like that's where you can kind of really make a difference to your overall, position or finish time, if that's what you're pursuing, is running up and then being able to kind of be strong enough to keep going and not have that kind of
more pressure on your joints.
And the downhills as well are going to be, if anything, I found in hilly courses, that's the bit that hurts. Like uphill is just, uphill's hard, but practice running down as well. Yeah. Good luck, Peter.
And that's that eccentric control that you need on from your hamstrings if you're going downhill. That's the muscular
That's
thing
exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah, I thought you were. I want to say massive good luck to Peter from Sydney, but that has prompted me to also, we don't normally do this, but a very good friend of ours, of Rick and mine from a long time.
Personal shout out.
Yeah, personal shout out. Ben, if you're listening.
Hey, Ben.
He's running his first marathon in Melbourne. And
he's been annoying us so much.
Training. Rick, you've got two people in your life complaining about marathons. It's a good job I'm not running one.
He literally, true. He asks Andy about 15 questions a week about what to do. Hey. Andy, what shall I have for breakfast? Banana, okay? Yeah, it's fine.
Ben, I don't think we can help listen. Good luck, Ben. If you're out running honestly, as you're listening to this,
we're proud of you. You go out there, destroy it. He's in good shape. He has broken a rib in his training.
He did break a rib and
he's
that
in really good
his
shape.
training. Yeah, but he's back in the game.
He's a good lad.
And we got through it. We got to the end.
Yes, we did.
Almost.
Yeah, I think you've got a favour to ask, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a favour to ask. Funny you should say that, Rick. If you are enjoying this, please do share it around with your other runners, your other people in your group chats, or people who you're out running with right now. Recommend us to a friend and we can help so many more runners. And thank you so much for listening.
Do we need to have some kind of, like refer a friend and you get something?
Andy will personally.
Take you on a run.
Actually, I tell you what,
handwritten letter.
if you email into us and say the name of the person that you've recommended it to, I was listening to a podcast recently where at the end of the podcast, all of the people that have like recently subscribed or whatever, they make it into a fun story. So here's the challenge. In the next couple of weeks, if you email in and say you've referred it to a friend, Andy will make up a fun running related story.
Can't wait.
With all of the people.
I am incredibly creative.
You two, stop talking.
Yeah, okay.
We're
Sorry.
done.
Goodbye.